Welcome everyone to this fifth webinar hosted by the SWAN APAC Alliance. The Alliance is part of SWAN, the Smart Water Networks Forum, a nonprofit which is the leading global hub for the smart water and wastewater sectors. Hello, I'm Patrick Bonk, a software solutions lead with the software company Innovyze, and the co-chair of the communications group within SWAN's APAC Alliance. So in getting started, a topic on many people's mind at this point in the adoption of so many new and physical digital technologies is, once you've started, how do you scale from here? So what we'll cover today is technological governance from a digital strategy, roadmap, and business outcome standpoint. We're going to look at success stories, so starting and scaling from there, and IT considerations for digital technologies. So if our speakers could turn on their cameras for a brief hello. With us today, we have Ari Bimo Sakti, an IT manager with PDAM Surya Sembada, Catherine Gee, executive manager, customer and community of Unitywater, and we have Mark Nickel, international sales director with Mueller Water Products. We want to make this session as interactive as possible, so please direct any speaker questions through to the Q&A box. If we can go next slide. Here's a snapshot of SWAN's APAC members, which represent the full spectrum of stakeholders in the industry, from idea to pipe. And moving on to the next slide, furthermore, expanding out to the entire SWAN member ecosystem map, we have strength in numbers and community. So SWAN is a global hub for smart water and wastewater, and this map shows the wide, diverse membership and high-level focus area in smart water. The map shows a clear delineation of smart water thought leadership and a holistic representation of the space from idea to pipe. And on to the next slide, introducing the SWAN APAC Alliance, which works to accelerate smart water and wastewater development in the Asia-Pacific region specifically through SWAN Forum's collective industry expertise and collaborative partnerships. So the Alliance offers access to specialized webinars, workshops, and a central source for smart water and wastewater information. You can learn more on the Alliance homepage, and I'll have more on the latest of what's next for the Alliance at the end of our panel discussion today. Next slide. The Alliance is led by George Theo and supported by 3 subgroup members that focus on regional partnerships, research, and communications and events. It's led by the chair, George Theo of Unitywater. Partnerships team is led by Martine Watson of Urban Utilities. The research team is led by Peter Prevost of Cullivan Water. And the communications team is led by Alana DeGelli and myself of Innovyze. Next slide. SWAN's value is demonstrated through global and regional collaboration. This is an example from the Digital Twin Workshop, where leading industry professionals work together to create a deliverable that will help water organizations plan their digital transformation journey. So we're now offering a first of its kind online course that demystifies the concept of digital twins for the water sector by breaking down the components, use cases, and business value. All right, so to kick things off, I would like to hand it off to Catherine as our first speaker. We have designed today's talk to leave plenty of time for live dialogue and panel discussion. So we want to make this session as interactive as possible. So please direct any speaker questions through to the Q&A box within the webinar. We're just going to switch over to Catherine's slide deck, so just bear with us. All you, Catherine, take it away.
Okay, so you can see that?
Yes, perfect.
Thank you for the introduction, Patrick, and it's exciting to be here today. So I'm looking forward to sharing the view of delivering value, not just technology, when we talk about scaling smart water solutions. Today I'll be really setting the scene and talking about how important the why is, around why we get started around these types of projects, provide a little bit of background to the group about the types of projects we've got underway to really bring alive how we start shifting the mindset from a technology or an installation to value. And then I'm going to share what so far Unitywater has learned through our journey so far, So let's kick off with the why and why that why is so important. So everything that we do starts with customer, and if the why doesn't relate to the customer, then we do question why we're doing it. So if the why starts with the customer, the first thing we have to do is ask the customer what is it that they want. Now, what I've got up here is our vision for our customers, and I'm sure nothing will surprise you when we know that customers want their bills to be affordable. They want things to be really easy, and they want us to protect the environment as a water utility. Today, what I'd like to focus on is scaling smart water solutions often fits into a combination of these first two boxes, and in particular, they're easy to do business with. So no surprises, if you put your customer hat on, you want to avoid issues where possible. If something does happen, you want your water utility to be empathetic, you want them to be willing to help, and preferably resolve it the first time if there's an issue. However, some things aren't that easy, so if they can't be resolved first time, all customers really want is to stay in the loop, be informed when things are going to get better or finish. And when you think about that as your anchor to why, it really does start you thinking about what problems can I solve for a customer using digital or devices or sensors or smart water solutions. But where do you start? So one of the challenges that can often happen is things are, new and exciting in an industry, and what you want to do is focus on trialing that, and that's okay. We do have to trial things so that we know if they work, but work for what? So what I thought I'd share with you is how Unitywater has started their transformation small, but always with that outcome to the customer in mind. And we are on the precipice of getting to those scaled solutions now, and we've learned a lot as we've gone along. So as we know, customers want things to be easy, and we've spent probably 6 years analysing customer feedback that tells us what's hard, and we've worked relentlessly to turn hard into easy. Some things are as small as adding a social login to a personalised customer portal, because it allows customers to not have to remember passwords, because that's hard. Another one is they want a copy of their bill because they keep losing it. And again, logging in to get that history is really easy when you don't have to remember a password, even easier when you click one button on our IVR and a customer can get a copy of the bill sent to them. We've taken the hard work out of remembering to pay the bill. So if you're on an e-bill, an electronic email bill, we will remind customers to make their payment within the 24 hours before the due date. If they haven't already paid. And although these things might seem small, it's the beginning building blocks to getting customers to a world of easy through digital transformation. But there comes a time when you get to a certain point, and Unitywater is there, where all of those quick wins and the easy things for customers that you get through suddenly require a step change to improve the experience. And if we anchor to our why here, avoiding issues altogether is where digital transformation really enters. So what I thought I'd do is take us now on a bit of a journey to where we are on our real projects, and that can show you how we have always anchored to that why and where we are with that at the moment. One of the projects that we're working on is called a digital neighbourhood project. So what's our why around that? If we go back to that why statement, there's two ways to describe something like a digital neighbourhood project. And I'm going to demonstrate the mindset shift it takes for transformation to stick. I'm going to show you two ways of describing that project. So the first one is within several DMAs, and this audience is probably familiar, but just in case, a district metered area. So in that blue zoned area on that map, nice and close to the beach here where we thankfully live, we're going to install 10,000 digital meters, 85 acoustic leak detection sensors, 15 pressure transient sensors, and 32 water quality sensors. That in itself is really exciting. But if you go back to your why, what's my why? My why is not installation for the sake of installation and to trial technology. I'm going to put this same project in a different wording, and instead of looking at it that way, we're going to say, same project, for selected suburbs, Unitywater is installing devices that will help our customers avoid unexpectedly high bills caused by leaks at their home. We will also be able to find and fix leaks, that will help us to save money. Remember, they wanted their bills to be affordable. So when we look at both of those statements, they're both factually correct, but the second one is the one that's going to help us scale digital transformation for our customers and our business. So how do we bring that transformation alive in a project like this? One little way of doing it is to take one of those digital meters and think of it differently. So there's more to it than installing a water meter. So of those 10,000 smart meters, if you think about the value chain, that the touch points that that smart meter has to go through, we need to procure technical devices, we need to install them, we need to talk to the customer about putting them on their premises, we need to find the funding for them, we need a communications network that will accept its data, we need somewhere to store the data when we receive it, we need all our people to be trained in new technology, how to answer different customer inquiries, how to find the data they're looking for and the alerts. We need to use a new meter reading format for billing. We need to use meter reading format that has not actually come from a human meter reader anymore. And once we do all of that, then we're set up to help a customer find leaks at their property and understand more about the operation of our meter assets. The purpose of showing that list is to show that this is a span of change across an organisation and customers that you need to be ready for when you start down the path of transformation. So back to the why. If you remember at Unitywater, we're using digital transformation to avoid issues altogether. That's what customers told us they wanted. We're taking a couple of pilot programs at the moment. So we have one proof of concept and one pilot. We're already starting to progress these projects. And in fact, we're about halfway through the installation and rollout of those 10,000 meters. By way of background, and for the next segment where I'm going to share my learnings, I guess I just want to let you know I've got the privilege of being heavily involved in these projects. And in particular on the smart meter side. I am the advocate for customers through digital transformation, and everything that we look at in these projects, we anchor back to that why for the customer. So what I thought I'd do is start sharing a few learnings with you. And so we might start with learning number one. I've laboured the point of describing your why, and I think that is important so that the direction of a project team to deliver what you're looking for is very clear from the outset. And then that cascading impact that has is everyone involved with the project team and the wider business can see what will happen differently when this goes live, what will our customers and often our people will benefit from. What I've got up on the screen is what we refer to in a couple of different projects at Unitywater called the North Star statements. So they outline in a customer, easy to understand language that instead of saying, I'm going to install a platform by which I can send automated SMSs, we will say things like, we're going to improve the outage experience for our customers. And as a customer, that means I'll be notified of water outages before I notice them. That allows me to manage having no water and spend less time working on what's happened. And each of those are examples of where we see value. And when we think about the Digital Neighbourhood program, you'll see that the long bar in the middle and leading down to the blue outcomes, instead of saying we're installing those 10,000 meters, we're actually getting the project team and every business person involved in that change to understand why that's being done, and then they can connect their role to that at the end of the day. So lesson number one is describe your why, know what it is, and put it in really easy customer language. Learning number two, walk first, run later. This really splits up into two elements. So when I say bite-sized chunks, it could be, biting off 10,000 meters instead of the 350,000 we have, and that's what we've done. It might be testing, one trunk main instead of 8 trunk mains. It's what is relevant and aligns to the cost profile of your business. But I think it's really important to understand the value of doing a bite-sized piece of value, to understand if you can actually prove and measure the value. What that will help you do is, yes, you will be comfortable with the technology that you end up choosing at scale. You can incorporate all your lessons learned for both project and operations. You certainly have more certainty in your cost estimates for your future business cases, which helps you to be more prudent with your cost forecasts. You have more confidence in the ROI or the NPV. Another one that is really important to us is we see if we can work with a vendor in the long term. Digital transformation is the long game. And you want to know that the person that you start partnering with in this space, or groups of people that you partner with, are people that have the same values and can work alongside your business and deliver the value we've been talking about on the long term. You get to find out who your early adopters and late bloomers will be, both inside your own business as well as customers. You can test behaviour change tactics on a pilot group of customers, and we're looking to do that in the digital neighbourhood at the moment. And then, of course, you can test effectiveness and efficiency of operational processes before they are built to an enormous scale, costing quite a lot of money. You want to make sure they are as efficient and effective as they can be as you go along. The second part of the walk first, run later learning is the project-related delivery phase. Assume the worst. I know it sounds terrible, but do you know what? If you go in assuming the worst, then you will never be surprised when effort is underestimated. You should always allow for underestimation of effort, especially where integrations or third parties are involved when it comes to digital transformation. Another one that is, I guess, under planned for in my experience is the project team need a few sprints to find their rhythm. Let's allow for a lower velocity in early sprints and time at the beginning of a project to build a relationship both across the project team and also at the executive level with your vendor partner to make sure that you can work with them over a long-term period. And my third lesson actually goes to what I was talking about, back to that smart meter slide that says it's going to affect every part of your business as you implement it. When we first started working on our digital neighbourhood, there was definitely a focus on choosing the right technology, and it absolutely had to be a focus at the time. But through good governance and having a project control group that was representative of the whole business, we came to the conclusion that we needed a stream dedicated to getting this operationally ready for the business. So learning number 3 is prioritise what we call operational readiness in every project. And the simplest question to ask your teams is, do they know what they will do differently on day 1 when this is all said and done? And there's many elements to that, but what we did is we set up a team whose sole purpose was to work out how the business as usual functions would vary and be different when we start getting meter reads through this new platform. We've also manually devised the operational processes so we can test them before we build them at scale. We have allowed for a process to enable field crews to be able to respond to new alarms that we've never had before. And of course, we need a communication protocol for when we need to tell customers about their leaks or about anything else happening at that meter. How will we do that? What channel will we go through? What type of tone and language will we use? So I'm happy to say today we're receiving data already. We are using manual processes and we actually pride ourselves on delivering value early. So there is no need to go perfect before you have everything. And I think operational readiness is a key to embedding that transformation, not just a project. And look, my last learning for today is actually a little bit more personal and related to an element of leadership. So let's face it, your board, your executive and your project team, your vendor partner, everyone wants your project to be a success. And that's even more so for digital transformation projects, because they are the ones that will take us into the next decade. They'll fend off disruptors. They'll give our customers that easier experience they're looking for. And the one thing above all else that is needed for successful digital transformation is project leadership. So lesson number 4 is, for any of you out there who, like me, have the privilege of being an executive sponsor to a digital transformation program, I would encourage active and visible sponsorship. But what does that mean? So to me, I'll definitely formal governance practices are a must. They're actually assumed and a given. Chairing PCGs, making sure your representative groups from across the organisation that are in every point of those touch points have a representative so everyone is heard. And good decision-making frameworks and governance practices will set you up for success at a base level. But I have to admit, the deepest insights I get in terms of success of projects and overall transformation are the more informal mechanisms. So personally, I attend daily stand-ups. The project team have 15 minutes set aside every day for a stand-up and everyone is invited. And I look at it, yes, my calendar is full like all of us, but I find that if I can invest 15 minutes a day in something that will change the way that we work in the future, then I think that's a really worthwhile investment. It demonstrates also to the project team that how important their efforts are, and you can also get a very good pulse for the project and its success as you go along. I personally make myself available to project and program managers if I am their executive sponsor. Now, we're all busy, I can't be on the end of the phone all the time, but I make a commitment to get back to them by the end of the day if they try to reach out to me. And then last but not least, have skip meetings. Get in amongst the project team and ask them how they think they're going. What's their biggest highlight, low light? What would they do differently if they were the PM? And make sure that your weekly meeting with your project or program manager actually incorporates those learnings so that we can always be responding to feedback like we do for our customers. And that's it for me for today. I guess the key takeaway is it's not about installation or sensors, it's about transformation, and to be successful, anchor it in outcomes for customers.
Good morning, everyone. Today, I want to share about what our company do to digitalize our business. We are starting massive digitalization from 2017. That is the CEO policy to digitalize all data taken from business process and taken from equipment such as flow and pressure sensor, data from electrical panel, chemical use, water quality sensor, etc. should be put in our database. Either using sensor device or manually, the data must enter to the system. Starting from CEO policy, we start to increase our resource, both hardware, software, and human resource, to be a digital water company. A brief of our company, PDAM Sembada Kota Surabaya, is a public water company owned by local government. Most of water company in Indonesia owned by local government. There is more than 400 water company in Indonesia. We are only served for Surabaya city. Surabaya is around 350 kilometers square with 3 million of citizens. We serve more than 580,000 of connection. We are operate 6 water treatment plant and 18 water distribution center. We have total production of 12,000 liters per second and 95% raw water taken from the river. We are maintain more than 7,000 kilometers of pipes, including transmission, primary, secondary, tertiary distribution pipes. We have some challenge to be a modern water company. On the other hand, we also have opportunity. Some challenge we have no tariff adjustment for more than 12 years. It tends to be a political policy, and because of our company owned by government, tariff policies should be approved by government. Now we still have a tariff class that only 2 cents US per cubic meter for social, and the highest tariff class is around 80 cents US per cubic meter. It is for airport and seaport. Other challenge that we face is increasing cost every year for employee salary, electricity, chemical, equipment, spare part. But on the other hand, we also make sure that our services is still excellent. We have opportunity as a second metropolitan city in Indonesia. People are getting prosperous, income level getting higher significantly. Many households turn their function into business, turn their function into coffee shop, into restaurant and other business. So it is potential for us to change tariff class. We also already include the parameter of economic factor in our tariff class to determine which tariff appropriate to for each customer. Other opportunity, we already digitalize data captured in field. such as every month our meter reader agent come to customer using Android application to capture meters and to capture customer premise condition. Our engineer staff also working with Android application in the field. This morning, I want to share about how we maximize digitalization. We capture the data from our meter reader agent. So each month we have chance to reposition our customer to appropriate class. Also, I want to share about digitalization of asset management in our water production plant, so we can minimize downtime of equipment to serve water supply in our city. And we integrate it all in one monitoring facility. So end-to-end process, starting taking raw water from river until we serve our customer can be monitored and take comment if necessary. All our digitalization is a backbone for management system certification. We have ISO 27001 information security management system. Also, we have ISO 55001 asset management system and ISO 90001 quality management system. The first case, we want to create possibility, see what is changing in our customer premise or our customer type. Regularly, each month, our meter reader agent came to our customer, take the meter number, take the photo of meter, and take the photo of customer premise. Also, the entry to the application, the condition of the meters, condition of environment, and customer complaint, if any. Beside the regular meter reader activity, starting from 2018, we add a simple feature. We call it dynamic thematic survey to our application. Using the feature, the manager easily assign a thematic survey such as change function of household, survey to determine type of customer business, or survey for how big the customer electricity installed. The manager just put the survey he wants to the web application, and automatically all the meter reader agency the another task to do beside the regular meter reading. With the simple feature, we able to collect much detail of customer condition each month, and we can change to put them to appropriate tariff class. So without tariff adjustment for 12 years, we can still do reclassification regularly. It is proven to increase our revenue while maintain efficiently in operation. We able to grow more than 8% per year. Also, at the end of 2020, in the pandemic condition, we still able to grow. Another case I want to share with you about to answer our challenge to be zero disruption water service. It is not easy. We should able to operate an excellent maintenance system, or will be based on how good of asset management. With more than 5,000 of mechanical and electrical assets and more than 500 civil building assets, it is impossible for us to do excellent maintenance and asset management manually. We're starting to develop asset management application, web-based and Android-based for field staff in 2018 and go live at 2019. Effective and efficient, we developed application using our in-house developer, and we always add new features to the application. This is the mobile application looks like, used by engineering field staff. With simple technology, we can capture the data. It is proven to be asset management backbone to do excellent maintenance. We can do scheduling for years and automatically maintenance staff will be a reminder to the Android system. This system as a backbone for us to achieve ISO 55001 asset management certification. We realized that ideally we put the sensor or automatic device to all of our equipment but it is costly and takes time. Still, we do some change in our equipment to be digital continuously every years. By digitalized asset management system, we have advantages such as we have asset data management, we can do integrate planning and do maintenance with more effective. We can do analysis and evaluation. Also, we can do appropriate for investment planning. Also, we have benefit, improve employee collaboration in the department, increase working motivation because all can do more easily. Also improve performance of asset and staff. After it all, we need a helicopter view that we can see end-to-end of our operation. Starting from we take raw water from the river, we treatment the water until it is ready to distribute. We can see how does the pump condition, electricity panel condition, chemical use, quality of water flow and pressure of our distribution in each of our water treatment plant. We also monitor in the distribution center facility about flow and pressure. After that, we should know how good our team gives service to our customer, such as how good performance of each salesperson, real-time monitor of performance our meter reader agent, how good performance of our call center agent, how fast we can handle customer complaint like leakage, changing water meter, and etc. This facility, we call it Service and Operation Command Center. This is the command centers look like. The big screen with the main and critical indicator, we call it first layer view. And the detail will be in second layer view, it is on the operator view. When something not in a normal condition or something strange happen, they will do coordination with the right person in the field before it is impact to our operation or something worse happen. As a water company, we realized that we cannot do it all by ourselves. So we open opportunity for technology involvement in PDAM Surya Sembada Kota Surabaya as the largest water company in Indonesia. In some areas such as big data, AI, IoT, GIS, and etc. And thank you.
Ari Bimo, thank you so much. Wonderful work by yourself and team. One of my favorite parts of today's webinar is we have great coverage of Asia Pacific from Australia to Indonesia. Now we're moving over to Mark Nicol, who I believe is in Malaysia, but normally based out of Singapore. Take it away, Mark.
Thank you very much, Patrick. And yeah, good morning, everybody who's in the Asia Pacific region. I think there's a few people in North America, so good evening to you as well. And yes, Patrick's right. I'm in Malaysia, based out of Singapore. And I'm going to share a couple of stories of scaling smart water solutions related specifically to leak detection in Asia today with you. Before I start, I just want to say I really enjoyed Pak Ari's presentation just then, because I worked in Surabaya about 12 years ago on a USAID funded project, and it's amazing to see the progress they've made in those last 12 years. It's very impressive and shows the drive of smart solutions. So yeah, let me jump into my presentation. First of all, I'm going to just introduce myself. I'm Mark Nicol. I'm the International Sales Director for Mueller Water Products, and I'm the first presenter and the only presenter today from the supply side. Obviously, we've had two great speakers, Catherine and Pak Ari, from the utility side. I'm going to give a supply side perspective to scaling smart water solutions. Before we go to that, I just want to quickly highlight some of the challenges that I think we all know that we face. And ultimately, this relates to the why that Catherine was talking about, of why should we have smart water? And why do we do specific projects? And these statistics are focused on the Asia region, but ultimately it's the same problem globally. We have population growth, particularly in Asia. This is a big growth with a huge amount of urbanization. We have climate change affecting us globally. We have aging infrastructure, and I'll come to this. Ultimately, the big challenge we're faced is our infrastructure is either reaching or has already exceeded its design life. We have insufficient budgets, and therefore we have inefficient networks that are causing us problems. We're having high break rates, we're having high leakage, water quality incidents, etc. And the holy grail to solve this problem is smart technologies. Of course, that's why we're all here. I strongly believe that. Non-revenue water is a specific area that I've been focused in for the past 20 years, particularly because I'm from the UK, and the UK has had a huge drive on leakage since back for the last 20 plus years, particularly at the moment. Leakage is a major challenge globally. The average leakage level, it's about 30%, but what does that mean in numbers? It's actually, this was presented at an IWA conference in South Africa a few years ago. A paper did a study, and it's 77 litres per person per day. And I think when you see that number, that really puts into perspective how big the problem is. Now, that's part of the problem, but the other part of the problem, and this for myself personally, when I worked for Thames Water in London, was the biggest thing that kept me awake, is failures of infrastructure, particularly critical infrastructure. And this is also a common problem. So not only do we have high inefficiencies and leakage, but we also have failures that happen. This particular picture was in California, happened about 4 years ago, and it caused massive flooding of the UCLA campus. I personally was on standby when I worked in London, and I would get phone calls saying, Mark, the 33-inch cast iron main that was laid in 1880 has just failed again. And we would have tens of thousands of people out of supply. Usually this would happen early mornings, typically when everyone was waking up about to use water. So ultimately, smart water is about taking technologies, using the people that we have, like this gentleman here. He knows what to do. He knows how to react to this situation, but how can he prevent it? And then implementing processes within our organizations to help address these challenges of aging infrastructure, high leakage levels, and high volumes of burst rates, failures on the network. And if we can find the problems very early before they become a problem, if we can move from this reactive to a proactive stance, then we can much better manage our networks, manage our customers' expectations, and also manage our finances. I think that's a key part of it. Now, the challenge is with data. So everybody's talked about putting sensors out in the network, and I'm going to talk about this. But the reality is, when you put sensors out, when you start to scale particularly, you have this problem of data overload. And on the left here, we have around 30,000 network noises. This comes from a deployment in California of acoustic sensors on distribution mains, and you can see over a few days we have around 30,000 noises. That really isn't helpful. So you need to take this information, you need to develop the processes in order to make insights, to convert this into information, and then an insight. And an insight in this case is a location to go and do an investigation for a leak. And you want to run at a high efficiency. So when you're deploying solutions on a large scale, this is a key factor. This is something that we've learned. I won't talk about this particular case, but the lessons we've learned in this case apply to many others. But ultimately, we had to develop the processes ourselves and with our clients to be able to take this data and convert it into insights with the least impact as possible. Ultimately, you could just employ lots of people to look at this data every day. That's not efficient. So we've applied machine learning. We do have some general algorithms that are applied, and then we can make these insights to target where to go and look for leaks. And ultimately, what does this mean? It means savings for us, for asset managers. It means that we can be more efficient when we do our repairs. We can send crews to the exact location. Potentially in the future, there's talk of self-healing pipes or inline repairs that can fix your pipes. We can reduce the leakage, the volume of loss of water, but also the damage, the liabilities that we have, for example, from that large break that I showed earlier. We can use this sort of information to help us drive regulation. So in the UK, one of the big drivers is because of regulation. And I know in Australia, for example, there's a lot of drive to be more efficient. And I think that that's a great example. And ultimately, we're increasing customer service. One of the big challenges is poor public confidence in our systems, because the news is always bad. Bad news makes headlines. It's rarely good news, but normally it's bad news that makes headlines. And if we can avoid that, we can be much better positioned. Now, I'm going to focus specifically on one bit of the network that I personally think is overlooked as an industry. It's being looked at a lot more, and it was nice that Catherine mentioned it, that they're looking at it as part of their system. And I'm going to share a couple of success stories in Asia where utilities have looked at their trunk mains on scale and how they've had great success from that. But ultimately, there's a belief that trunk mains don't leak. And I myself kind of believe that, but I always had suspicions, and it's because you don't hear about a lot of leaks. All the leaks on networks tend to be on distribution mains or customer supply pipes. And yes, in terms of number of leaks, there are more leaks because there's more connections, there's more pipe. But the reality is there's still a huge number of leaks on trunk mains, and there is a huge volume of water lost from trunk mains. Normally, these are harder to find. Traditionally, there hasn't been a lot of technology available to assess these pipes. Because the pipes are buried deep, they don't tend to surface, so it's less easy to know that the pipes are leaking. And also when you do a flow balance, and I was a network modeler initially, and I would do flow balances on trunk mains to build and calibrate hydraulic models. And because you have an inherent error in any form of flow measurement, and there's so much water flowing through trunk mains, that a small error that is standard on a flow meter, and when you add lots of flow meters or flow probes up together, could be a very large leak. It could be a meter error. You don't know. That's the reality. But ultimately, as we'll see, it can be a significant contribution to NRW levels, and in particular where you have catastrophic failures. So we as Ecologics, we're owned by Mueller. Mueller Water Products is a large North American manufacturer of products and technologies specifically in the water sector, and we develop these solutions. And I'm not going to go too much about the technologies today. I'm going to talk about the use cases of their success. But ultimately, these are some examples of specific customer interests that we worked with the clients. And I think a key thing here when looking to deploy and scale solutions is that it needs to be collaborative. It needs to be collaborative both within an organization, as Catherine and Pak-Ari have shared, to get the mass buy-in within the organization, but equally with the supply chain, you need to have collaboration to develop the right solutions. We collaboratively developed this particular product, which we call EcoShore Mobile, with utilities in Malaysia, the UK, and the USA. So we also got this global perspective. An example of how this applies to a Asian context, Southeast Asian context, is the color of the hardware. We call it a node. You can see it's a light color. Originally, this box, this Pelican case, was black, but we realized in the hot, humid environment that you have in Malaysia in particular and in Southeast Asia, it was overheating because you've got electronics inside, it's getting very hot. And so just by changing the color of the enclosure, we could reduce temperatures by about 10 degrees C inside the box, which meant that it could function fine in a much warmer environment. We also have done some projects in Australia where we change the timing of data collection, things related to construction and ground movement. So I think the key point here is that it's about collaboration to develop these products and trial them and put them into the right solution. Now, in this particular instance, this product actually was initially developed specifically for a client in Malaysia, and some of the challenges that they had, they knew they had big problems on their trunk mains, and they were doing inline surveys which were having great success and finding lots of leaks, but there was a big problem with being able to locate leaks on pipes where they couldn't deploy inline technologies. And ultimately, I won't go through this list, but we were able to help develop a solution that they could go and survey networks. That was with a contractor. Since the utility themselves has brought this in-house, and the utility is Air Selangor in Malaysia, who is another SWAN member. And you can see here some of the results of what they've achieved. And I say they because the key thing here with Air Selangor is they took a business approach where they wanted to use their resources, their local knowledge of the network, to deploy our technology, work with us where the data comes back to our cloud server, analytics are applied to the data. We've trained them how to go in and process that data, although it's pretty much automated. And you can see that they've surveyed several thousand kilometers of pipes in total. Some of this is resurveying networks. In total, they found over 500 leaks, and they've saved over 41 MLD of leakage from these leaks. And every single leak that they've located has been pinpointed within a 2-meter accuracy. And this is a huge volume of water. It's the equivalent of around 225,000 people's daily consumption based on Malaysian average consumption. The other part of the equation is that we have a permanent version of this. And in this case, we have actually worked very closely with PUB Singapore in adapting the solution to suit their needs. This is the same principle where we're installing sensors on the pipe, but they're permanently installed and they're sending data. And the concept here is, one, it will find existing leakage, but primarily the driver is to avoid these catastrophic failures. By finding leaks at their inception at a very early stage, PUB can then go in and repair those leaks before the pipe becomes a failure in a very planned, organized manner. A couple of examples of where we've collaborated. In this picture, you can see the manhole cover. We've actually custom built manhole covers in Singapore that meet with traffic rating standards. The antennas are integrated into the chamber lid. And another collaboration that's not shown in this picture, but we've actually improved the hardware to make it waterproof. Our hardware was IP68, which basically means it can be submerged in water for a period of time. There are chambers, it's a hot, humid climate, it rains every day, that are constantly flooded. Waterproof means it needs to be underwater all the time. And so we have special enclosures that we've developed for that kind of environment. And we actually have an installation on a floodplain in Australia that is with waterproof sensors, because it's floods every year and they need to be waterproof. So in terms of scaling this, and I think a key thing is related to trials, PUB went through a very clear staged approach. It started with a trial pilot of 6 sensors, and they tested them. There was a very clear understanding within PUB of why they wanted to do this, what they were looking to achieve. And I won't go into the details now because we don't have time, but ultimately we did a 6 sensor trial. We were then awarded, it went to tender, a 3-year, 120 sensor contract, which ran from 2017 to 2020. And then in September 2020, PUB scaled again, this time to a 5-year contract with 300 sensors, and that has now been fully installed, and that by a couple of months ago, and that is ongoing monitoring. A big difference between Singapore, however, and IS Selangor is IS Selangor have their own resources and wanted to do it. PUB were of the opinion they wanted to outsource this. So not only did we provide the technology, we did the installation, we do the maintenance, we do the monitoring, and we even do the leak follow-up on site. So if there is a leak, for example, like this one, our system will alert, and we have our crews that we send out. And this is the other part. I think you have to, as a supply chain, adapt to the client's needs and what they're looking for. In our case, we have actually got local staff in Singapore, so we were able to provide that service ourselves. For example, in Australia, we work with a local partner who are trained in how to do installation. They know how to do leak follow-up, and that's how we work, for example, in Australia. So, but there's different adaptations, and I think that's the key. So we've seen here a couple of examples where there's been some large-scale deployments of smart technologies that are very innovative, and that have been and continue to prove to be very successful. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mark. That was really wonderful coverage of actual technology and the success stories with your clients and the respective utilities. If the speakers can just turn on their cameras. We've got a couple questions from our listeners, attendees today. Catherine, the first one's for you, actually. How did you convince your management team that the early failures should be anticipated and accepted when designing and implementing the innovative programs?
I think it's not so much accepting that things will fail, it's accepting that things might take longer than we think. And I think how you get any buy-in to that is back to the why. And the why for Unitywater is to keep those bills low for customers. And we all know that when projects fail, they can be very, very costly. So it is putting it through the lens of how can I get certainty for the lowest value. You apply those lessons learned and do it in the bite-sized chunks, and you will end up getting a better outcome at the end of the day, cost-wise, for the customer.
For RA-BMO, are you planning to implement smart meters for customers? And then also, are there opportunities for vendors to help find solutions?
Yes, we plan to implement smart meter for some of our customers, like large industry, business, shopping mall, and other premium customers. Not for all of our customers. and it is open for all vendors to help us to find the solution about smart meters.
I think this question's for all of our panelists. I'll start with you, Mark. What's the one biggest hurdle everyone should expect to face during a digital transformation?
From my experience, I think it's the buy-in across the organization. I think making sure that all the key stakeholders understand what they're trying to achieve and are aligned. And when I say across the organization, I actually mean all organizations. So not just the utility, but also the supply chain. So we, for example, have the team that's the business development team that goes out to get the business, and then we have our operations team who deploy it, and that's a combination of field staff and analytics and engineering. So it's a key to make sure that we all understand what is it we're trying to achieve, and that we're aligned with the utility, and the utility itself knows what they're trying to achieve from this project to make sure it's a win-win for everybody involved.
Catherine, did you want to add from your vantage point?
I'd just take that even that's, I agree, Mark. I think getting everyone on board is that why question, and once people understand it and actually resonate with it, they do tend to jump on board. I think the next challenge that you can always expect, especially in this digital world, is the lag in capability uplift to do what looks like, Mark, you had some amazing projects that you just ran through. And I think about, you know, the person who's turning their computer on day one after that's done. You know, that person didn't used to do what they do now. And there's an uplift and learning curve there that you may either have to go and procure that capability from a market that's pretty competitive, or upskill the people within your own organisation who've never done it before. So, you know, easy sailing and getting good insights takes a little while. So I think the biggest hurdle you've got to remember is capability uplift takes time, or a competitive market for resources.
Ari Bimo, what was the biggest hurdle you faced at the start of your project?
Yeah, I think digitalization, it should be a collaboration of all components in organization. So it will be also from the top management and collaborate all of elements. So it's not easy, and it should have a good commitment.
Great. I think we have time for one last question. I'll start with you, Mark. What are your thoughts on the benefits of trials and pilots of technology before scaling deployment? Is this a good thing or a bad thing?
It's a very good question. I think it's a good thing if the trials and pilots are done correctly. And when I say done correctly, there needs to be, back to Catherine's why, there needs to be a clear why are we doing this trial. We, as supply chain, will often go and talk to utilities and they say, yeah, this is great, let's do a trial. And my first question is, okay, why are we doing this? What do we want to achieve from the trial? What is your objective? And they're like, oh, we just want to see if the technology works. I'm like, okay, fine, we know the technology works, but why? What if it works, what does that mean? So, and again, it's taking that staged process, and then it's really important when you do trials and pilots, and we know that's going to happen. We're not expecting the industry to go, oh, we're just going to buy technologies that and trust that it works, because that's never going to happen. But the key is to make sure it's aligned with the needs of the business, and that the supplier, the manufacturer, knows what it is that the utility is trying to achieve, so that when that pilot takes place, it's a success for all parties, because everybody's going to invest in this pilot, whether it's a paid pilot or trial or free or whatever is irrelevant. It's all about the success and what the outcome means to ultimately address those business goals that we're trying to achieve.
Catherine, do you want to add from the utilities perspective? I think you're on mute.
Yes, I was. I knew someone would do it. I guess it's me for today. Look, Patrick, I've just got to say some really good questions coming through the chat. I don't know if you've got access to those, and whether we wanted to answer any of those, given we've got such a short period of time left.
Yeah. I could read a couple, like one more of those. We're pretty short on time.
Yeah.
Okay, here's one. Are we seeing smart meter data or leakage data used in isolation from SCADA data, or are there two data sources being combined to unlock further value, particularly for control rooms and day of operations? Anybody want to take that?
I'm actually happy to throw something in there. I saw that one, that one caught my eye because I know that the incorporation of SCADA data with other data in a water utility is a hot topic at the moment. And it's actually something that we are starting to look into, because we're very conscious that you can't make a decision without one of the biggest data points for a water utility, which comes from our SCADA data. It's definitely something on the radar. So answer to Sean, are the two data sources being combined? In an ideal world, yes, and we'll wait to see what comes out of the pilots.
Great. We've reached the top of the hour. So what I'm thinking is the questions that have come in through to the panelists, we can send individually and make sure that gets to individuals who have asked the questions. We just want to be respectful of everyone's time. Just quickly, with the APAC Alliance, we're going to be doing a LinkedIn takeover, and this is your opportunity as a member of the organization, whether you're a vendor, a research institute, or a utility, a council, to take over the APAC Alliance LinkedIn feed. So we have Optimatics ready to start in the next couple of weeks, and then please reach out if you're interested in doing a LinkedIn takeover where you can take control of that channel and share your stories. Also, we encourage you to join the partnerships, the research, and the comms team. There's been a lot of collaborative conversations, and we've had guest speakers appearing on our calls, which have been really worthwhile. As well, we just had the SWAN Global Conference, and there's recordings available to members via the SWAN website. So as a SWAN member, you have access to the treasure chest of online SWAN Global Conference materials, with the leading and latest thinking around digital twins and digital transformation around the industry globally. I would like to thank our speakers today, Catherine, Ari Bimo, Mark, you all spoke so well. Thanks for taking the time to do some Q&A as well. We'll wrap that up and call it a day. Wish everybody the best, and thanks so much for attending the 5th webinar by the SWAN Asia Pacific Alliance. Take care, everyone. Bye.